afternoon. Thank you for coming and witnessing the induction of two unparalleled inductees into the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. Daryl Christensen and Mike Norris. Welcome aboard. My name is Emmett Brown. I'm the Executive Director of the Fishing Hall of Fame, Hayward, Wisconsin. You should come up sometime if you haven't been there. There's a big fish in our front yard. It's a half a city block long and 5 stories tall. You can't, easy to find. Hayward's not that big, trust me. But it's a fun place to be. So today well, first of all, I want to thank the Journal Sentinel and show management, particularly Stephen Buzza and Ken Delvecchio, who has been very helpful. Thank you very much for providing this wonderful venue and showcasing the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame and our unique Hall of Fame, Fishing Hall of Fame. I know that Paul Smith from the Journal Sentinel is here. Thank you. Chauncey Nizzle, I know from Chicago and ESPN. Thank you for attending. Thank you for whatever promotion you can do for us. And really more just about getting the word out and giving these gentlemen the proper acknowledgement that they deserve. So while we're on the subject, I want to kind of explain the significance of their induction. First, inductees, the nearly 500 that we've acknowledged, beginning in about 1980, I think is when the program started. There have been millions I can't add how many millions of people have fished in their lives. I'm not sure what that number is, but it's countless millions. And Daryl and Mike have been narrowed down to about 500 people recognized for their contributions and the significance of their contributions to freshwater sport fishing. So 500 men, women, and organizations out of the millions upon millions upon millions of anglers through the years. It's quite an accomplishment. Again, Daryl and Mike, welcome aboard. Your induction is for the significant and lasting contributions that you've made to freshwater sport fishing. So, Jim Grant from Grant Rods was going to join us today. He had a minor emergency he had to get back to Illinois for. So he'll be missed. Jim is on he's one of the members of our selection committee. We meet once a year, usually in midsummer, up in Hayward, usually. And there's there's 8, I think we currently have 9 men and women on our selection committee. And they're a cross-section it's not just Wisconsin, trust me. We have people coming in from the West Coast, the East Coast, the South, Southeast, and of course the Upper Midwest. This is not the Wisconsin Fishing Hall of Fame or the Upper Midwest Fishing Hall of Fame. This is North America's Fishing Hall of Fame. But again, thank you for attending. Daryl Christensen has been fishing for Well, a long time. How's that? and you know, that reminds me, fishing, sport fishing, is really the only sport that you could say you've been fishing for 60, 70, 80, 90 years. What other sport can you say you've participated in for 90 years? And Daryl, it hasn't been 90 years for you. That's not what I'm getting at. But there is no other participatory sport where you can really enjoy from the time you're a toddler until the time that you get scooped up by the big landing net in the sky. But Daryl has been doing this for a long time and doing it, you know, as good and better as anyone else. He's been a fishing guide, a fishing educator, book author, writer. He also has 40 top 10 finishes on the professional walleye trail, on the various professional walleye trail tournaments. I mean, that's outstanding. But fishing prowess, catching big fish, is not necessarily what Induction is about. It is about the legacy you've left. It's much more than just catching a big fish a couple of times in your life. It's about that significant and lasting contribution that you've made to the sport. Daryl is known as the Jigmeister. So you're pretty good at this, right? You know, and that's the way, if you want to catch fish, that's the way you fish. There's a reason why jigs are in pilot survival kits. There's a reason for that, because it's effective. Throughout Daryl's career, he's served on national pro staffs as well as many corporate and nonprofit boards, often as an officer and as a director in an advisory position. Daryl has just informed me that he's retired from competitive fishing, not even guiding too much anymore, but he's still fishing and going to be fishing for a long, long time. Daryl, I think it's time. Welcome to the Fishing Hall of Fame as an inductee. You're now part of that group of that 500, the Ted Williams, the Kurt Gowdies, the Isaac Waltons of the world. Welcome aboard, Daryl.
Wow. Thank you, Executive Director Emmett Brown. I know this may shock a lot of you that have followed me in my career. I never use a script. But they said I only had a limited amount of time, and they've heard me do seminars before, and they kind of go along. So I'm going to run through this pretty quick. And thanks to all of you, and this is why I don't do a script, including my family and friends who have come to Milwaukee today to share this extraordinary honor with me. There are hundreds as well that in some way, shape, or form have influenced my successful career path into fishing over the past 70 years, who couldn't be with us today. Many, too many, I'm afraid, are no longer with us on this earth. In a moment, I will mention some of these men and women and share a few stories, but before I do, I want to give all the glory and honor for my amazing life and for this incredible day to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm a firm believer that if we honor Him in all things first, He will order our steps through life. One of my heroes, President Theodore Roosevelt, who by the way is in the Fishing Hall of Fame, wrote an amazing book titled Trust God, Then Do Your Own Part. It's a fascinating book and one that every one of us should read before we die. In a nutshell, Roosevelt urges the reader to trust in God, but then get out there and use the passion, gifting, and skill that He gave you to accomplish amazing things for others. I'm acquainted with well over 120 people who are in the Fishing Hall of Fame. Some of them I worked with during my years as an outdoor writer. Others I've competed against in tournaments or shared countless seminar stages at venues across the country. Still others were or are close friends. These men and women all deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but none of them, not one, would have gotten voted in had they not been nominated by someone who believed in them in the first place. I was nominated by outdoor writer and guide Joel Coons. Joel, are you here? He wasn't sure if he could make it or not today. Joel? No? Well, if you are, stand up and wave or yell or, okay. Joel and I go back a long ways, and I've been involved in several ventures over the years. My favorite was catching bass in the water hazards at the Sticks and Stones Celebrity Charity Golf Tournament in Sturgeon Bay. How many people get to do that? That is some great bass fishing, by the way, because they don't actually allow it. So we fished this tournament during the monsoon with Green Bay Packer players who thought we were crazy. We were. Joel called, emailed, texted, and begged me for information to submit to the hall. Thank you, Joel. So if you have in mind anyone for the Hall of Fame, nominate them. That's the first step. It doesn't matter how good they are or what they've done. If they don't get nominated, they can't get in. Again, Joel, thank you. I know we have a few Hall of Famers with us today. Looking around through the audience. If you're in the Fishing Hall of Fame, raise your hand. All right, if you want to be in the Fishing Hall of Fame, raise your hand. There we go. Well, one, of course, is Mike Norris. The other was Jim Grant, who couldn't be with us today, unfortunately. How about Dan Small? Are you around here somewhere? Dan was a big help in encouraging and writing letters to the Hall of Fame on my behalf. A great guy. At this time, I'd like to introduce my biggest fan and hero. She is my secretary, travel agent, promotions manager, financier, booking agent, project manager, troubleshooter, traveling companion, tailor, barber, spiritual advisor, psychiatrist, nightcrawler bedding squeezer, sweetheart, wife and partner for 55 years, my wife Sharon. There is no way I would be standing here today without her support and her help all those years. My sister Kay is here. And her daughter and her husband. Thank you for coming. Stand up and wave. We got time. Yes. The rest of you guys stay seated. My kids, Steve and Al and Sean. My grandkids, Reese, Reese, Joey, and Eliana. James was sick this morning. Stand up, you guys. Show them that. See, these guys fish too. They fish, but they mainly eat fish when they come to visit. My mom, who's 96 years old, couldn't make the trip today, but I know she's sent me a text and she's very excited about this. She was one of the first people that took me fishing. I was born and raised on the Fox River. Started fishing when I was 4 or 5 years old. I don't remember my first fish, but I do remember my first walleye. I was 5 years old. I caught it on a bucktail streamer fly made by my dad using a cane pole rigged with 10 feet of braided nylon line and 3 feet of catgut. That fish hooked me for life. My grandfather, Jack Wheaton, and my dad were my early mentors. Grandpa Jack was a great fisherman. He could handle a fly rod like Van Gogh handles a paintbrush. My dad took me with him when he could, but I did most of my early fishing with friends or by myself. I loved to fish and hoped and prayed that I would someday make a living doing it. For some reason, catching fish became really easy for me, and living on the river helped me fine-tune my jig fishing to a whole new level. I fished every day until my teen years, and then life got in the way. You know, school, four-letter word jobs, girls, Uncle Sam, marriage, kids, and a fishing bum killer named responsibility. I still fished when I could and devoured books and fishing shows. I was so jealous of the fishing show guys, especially Alan Ron Linder, Bill Dance, and Roland Martin. It's funny, because 20 years later, I found myself not only fishing with those guys, but becoming close friends. Al Lindner, Roland Martin, and Jim Calcophon, all Hall of Famers, taught me the ropes on what it takes to be a professional fisherman. What I learned was that it was more, much more, than just being good at catching fish. And Bill Dance intervened for me during a sticky contract negotiation that made a huge difference in my career. You haven't lived until you shared a boat with Bill Dance, or out of the boat with Bill Dance. I mean, it's just hilarious. The guy is different. Guiding was hard work, but it meant I was fishing every day. 36 years of tournament fishing was a whole different dimension. I had great sponsors like Mercury Marine, Tracker Boats, thank you Jackie, Bass Pro, thank you Johnny Morris, Dodge Trucks, and 39 other sponsors. All were important pieces of the tournament fishing puzzle. I won enough money to make a living and met hundreds of thousands of people who wished they were doing what I was doing. Being inducted into the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame is a dream far beyond my wildest expectations. I seriously can't find the words to even begin to describe how I feel. Somehow grateful, honored, and humbled don't seem to be enough. But they are good words and true words, and I suppose they will have to do. Perhaps overwhelmed would be more like it. I will close with the words of two of my favorite writers and fellow Fishing Hall of Famers. There is nothing noble about being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your former self. That was Ernest Hemingway. Many men go fishing and women their entire lives without knowing it isn't fish they are after. Henry David Thoreau. The rest of this afternoon I will be at the Hall of Fame booth, right there, to sign any autographs, share stories, and visit with anyone interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. That was great. And again, congratulations. Let's see, who's next? Oh, Mike Norris. Have a seat. Mike Norris. Mike's been on the outdoor beat for a long time as well. I'm a Chicago boy. Been up in Hayward now for about 20 years, but I remember Mike, and we talk from time to time. And I think of all Mike's accomplishments, and maybe I think personally is most significant perhaps is his successful advocation for returning the interest in Illinois on fishing license fees back to fishing, to sport fishing in the state of Illinois. The interest earned on the money collected until Mike intervened went back into the general fund for the politicians to play around with. And Mike advocated have that interest on the money to go back into the general fishing fund. That was quite an accomplishment. And if you know anything about Illinois, moving money around in Illinois is difficult, to say the least. Mike has been a proficient educator and outdoor columnist for a long, long time. The Aurora Beacon, the Elgin Courier, and Mike, you still do the weekly fishing updates in the Chicago Sun-Times, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. And you wouldn't think Chicago is much of an outdoor fishing market, but it's huge. Pretty much most everybody fishes in the city of Chicago and the surrounding suburbs. A lot of them come up to Wisconsin, of course. That's what I did. That's what Mike does. And matter of fact, Mike, I believe, during the spring, summer, and fall, mostly hangs his hat up in the big green lake area and fishes and guides in that area. And help me out with this, Mike. Didn't the fish on Big Green Lake sign a petition to get you removed from the lake?
They tell me, the DNR tells me fish populations are down since I've been there, but that's not true. We do practice catch and release, so.
Yeah, it's catch and release. I'm just kidding, but I know you're kind to the fish up there. Mike is also, as an educator, he does a lot of seminars, particularly in community colleges, Elgin Community College, and he was also quite active on the walleye tournament trail as well. I know, Mike, you have many high finishes in many of the walleye tournament trails, both nationally and in the state of Illinois. And I know you have a number of high finishes in the, right now the name of the Illinois tournament eludes me, but you had some high finishes there too. Yeah, Illinois walleyes, that was it. Yep. And Mike currently operates a multi-species guide service in south central Wisconsin. And he'd love to take you fishing. I know he would. He's promised to take me out this summer. Right?
Yeah, I have no time for clients because I'm taking friends fishing all the time.
So, without much more ado, as the saying goes, Mike now is in that elite group of those 500 individuals and organizations who are in the Fishing Hall of Fame. Mike, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much, Emmett. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Look at that, folks. I learned something last night that I did not know. That you were in the movie Back to the Future.
Dr. Emmett Brown. I had that name a lot longer than the movie.
I did not know that, but my grandchildren told me that story last night at dinner, so very interesting. Thank you. I'm going to remove his speech so I don't read the same thing, so. Okay, try doing it this way. Well, I appreciate the size of the crowd that are attending this ceremony. Very impressive. Thank you, everyone. Daryl, you have a host of people who have come to see your induction. That makes you very proud, I know. I have a bunch of friends here also. And people that I don't even know that are sitting here today watching this. So thank you, everyone, for attending today. I stand, thank you. It's an extraordinary honor of being inducted into the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. It's a moment come true, excuse me, and the culmination of years spent nurturing a passion for the sport that has given us so much inspiration and memories. I'd like to thank the Hall Committee for recognizing our contributions, both Daryl and mine, and the other 500 members for this beloved event. It's generally humbling to be counted among the legends who have shaped the freshwater fishing world. Fishing has always been more than just a pastime for me. It's a way of life, a connection to nature, and a source of endless learning and adventure. From the first time I cast a line into the still waters of a serene lake to the countless hours spent patiently waiting for the elusive bite, right? Every moment has been a treasured experience. I owe honor to many people, my family, my friends, people in the industry that helped us along. Daryl talked about that. People who encouraged my pursuits. Friends and fellow anglers who shared the waters with me. And the stories that we have told. It's a personal achievement and a celebration of community of anglers everywhere who share the passion for freshwater fishing. It's a testament to the enduring spirit of camaraderie, respect for the environment, and the relentless pursuit of excellence that defines our sport. Now, I'm going to throw the AI speech away, okay? we're in that age. And I'm just going to talk. I was on this stage yesterday. I did a seminar. I've done thousands of seminars. I was very relaxed, having a good time. I've never been so nervous in my life here today. So I don't get it, right? You get it. So it's an honor. So I'm just going to talk off the cuff, okay? Emmett mentioned that I did radio, I did newspapers, I fished tournaments. The question is, did I wake up one day and say, this is my passion, this is what I want to do the rest of my life? The answer is no. It's sort of an interesting journey. I started fishing, used to go to Hayward, up in Emmett's area, a bait shop there called Jake's Bait Shop on Highway B. And Jake would sit in there, and I was 18 years old, and I had a Pontiac Firebird with a 400 horsepower motor in it. And we'd go in there, we would buy bait. And I saw a magazine on the counter called Fishing Facts. I said, what's this? And I opened it up, and I said, my God, there's actually a method to this madness. It told stories of how to catch fish by writers, and a lot of them were from the Chicago area. And I bought it, and I studied it. But my fondest memory is leaving Jake's Bait Shop in my 400 horsepower Firebird and spinning my wheel and doing a donut in his gravel parking lot. Yeah. The next day I returned, bought bait, and Jake sat there in the chair and looked at me and said, would you mind not rearranging my driveway when you leave here today? So, I'll never forget that story. So, but I got into bass fishing. I was working for a company, doing some work on the road, was up in Rockford, joined a fishing club up there out of boredom, and in a year I was president of the club. I knew I was in trouble then. There was something going on inside of me that said this burning desire just didn't mean going out and catching fish occasionally. So I started fishing. I joined Walleyes Unlimited. And Walleyes Unlimited, their president and one of the other members is here. Stand up, Bob. This is the Bob Clark. He's the president of Walleyes Unlimited. It is the best fishing club you will ever find on the planet Earth. How good are they? They are in the Hall of Fame. They're in the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame as a club. You won't find it anywhere else. So, congratulations to them. They've been in there since 2018, something like that. So I joined that club and started talking to some members, and some guys started talking about catching walleyes. Big walleyes from shore below the dam in Shelbyville, Lake Shelbyville, Illinois. And they would catch these walleyes at nighttime, casting jigs into the current below the dam. I never caught a walleye in my life, right? So I called 5 or 6 friends and said, Friday night, let's go down there. No one wanted to go. It's a 5-hour drive. We wouldn't get there to midnight. No, I'm not going. And so I went alone. That's when you know you've got a serious bug. But here's the best part about it. I get there, and 15 minutes later, I have a 10.5-pound walleye netted on a jig. And I went back to the club and registered it, and now I had this big trophy with a little thing that said Mike Norris 10.5-pound walleye. It's the first walleye I ever caught. Yeah. So I think I'm on a roll now, you know. So I'm fishing bass tournaments. That's still my passion. I met a guy, showed me how to fish big jigs. No one fished big jigs. Everybody pounded the shorelines back in those days. And I was out at weed edges throwing 3/4-ounce jigs with a homemade plastic bait that I made. And it was called the Creature. And then I became known as Creature Mike. Because why? Because we won just about every tournament on the lakes that we fished. There's a guy that called me today. I haven't talked to him in 40 years. He called me today to say that he was sorry he couldn't make it. And I said, "You're kidding me." And I said, "I didn't know you were going to come." He says, "Oh, I had to come." And we started talking about those tournaments. He said, there was only one team when we were in these tournaments that we were afraid of, and it was Mike Norris and his friend. My friend has passed away, he's not here, but it was a great time. So, okay, so I'm fishing bass tournaments, I'm doing really good. I meet a guy in Michigan, and he says, "Do you ever fish walleyes?" I said, "Yeah, I do. I caught one, 10.5 pounds, the only one I've ever caught." And I'm thinking, maybe I just ought to call it quits right there, right? You know, I'm doing good, cut it off, right? No, not going to do that. This guy says, "Do you want to fish a walleye tournament with me?" I says, "Yeah." So we fished the MWC, the Masters Walleye Circuit. We fished the Illinois River. We fished the Tittabawassee River, Saginaw Bay. And then we went to Alexandria, Minnesota, and which was the most horrific day of my life. It was 90 degrees every day, and I was sunburned. And right before the tournament started, the temperature dropped down to 40 degrees and it poured. And my body had been acclimated and burnt, and now I was in this freezing cold water, rain pouring down on it. I got in the car that night, I turned the heat on high, I drove all the way back to Chicago and never turned the heat off of high. I never got the chill out of my bones either for a couple of days. But next thing I know, we had fished 3 of the 4 tournaments, and we had enough points to qualify for the World Championship. And I was on my way to being a professional walleye fisherman, and did that for 10 years between that and the professional walleye tour, which was the Ellinder tour. But something was burning inside me, and that was the fact that I was fishing way far away from home on somebody else's schedule in the lousiest weather. Right? We never had good weather. And I said, "You know what? I'm going to just come back home and start guiding." So I did. But along the way, I was interviewed, because I was a professional walleye tournament angler. I was interviewed by newspapers in Chicago. John Uzar, the Chicago Tribune, would quote me all the time. Bill Cullerton, WGN Radio, would have me on his show. And a guy from a suburban radio station called me up and said, "I heard you on WGN this morning. Would you like to come do an interview on my Saturday sports show?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do that." So we did an hour-long show, and we got done, and he said, "That really went well." And I said, "You should be doing this every week, a fishing show every week." And he said, I can't talk about fishing." And I went, "Who's talking about you doing this show?" So we walked into the general manager's office, and 2 weeks later I was on the air doing radio. And I did that for 15 years. At one time I was on 3 different stations a week, including The Score, which is the Mega's big sports radio station in Chicago, WSCR 670 radio. So, newspapers. I'm getting interviewed by guys in newspapers. And one of the newspapers called me up and says, "Our outdoor writer had a stroke." He said, "They expect he won't recover for 6 months. Would you fill in and write the columns?" And I went, "I don't know anything about writing newspapers." He says, "Well, give it a shot." 17 years later, I was writing columns for 17 years, writing columns for both the Aurora Beacon and the Elgin Courier, like the second newspaper. I got engaged with Midwest Outdoors with Larry Ladowski, and he said, "You need to shoot some TV shows with us." Now I'm doing TV shows, so I had a lot of things in the frying pan at once, and I decided it was time to cool it down a little bit, turn the heat down in the frying pan. And I did, and I started just guiding, and I was guiding the Illinois River, Southern Lake, Michigan, Shabbona Lake, Lake Geneva and Delavan. And on a weekend trip to Oconomowoc, where I was doing seminars, I ran into a realtor who was selling places up in the Green Lake area. And I bought a place up there. And after a couple years of driving up there just to relax, I thought, why don't I just move my guide business to Green Lake? So I did, and then I developed the guide business, and it's grown ever since then. And I mean, it's turned into a wonderful thing. Green Lake, which is an hour and 45 minutes away from here, it's 236 feet deep. It's got everything you want in it: bluegills, crappies, walleyes, lake trout, smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, northern pike. Did I say smallmouth bass again? Because this is a smallmouth factory, folks. I can't believe how good the trips are. Most of the people that I take out was telling me that this exceeds my expectations of what I thought this trip was going to be. A number of people will tell me that I just caught my personal best, so it's so cool, yeah, to have that. And it's such a great feeling, and that's why today I continue to do that. It's the camaraderie, the friendships, and the love of the sport and catching them. And 47 years in this business, and I have not stopped learning. That's the thing that gets me up every morning. It says, let's do this again. So, anyhow, I want my family to stand up here, so look at this. My two daughters in the rear, in the middle there, their husbands, is Kelly and Kimberly, and Matt and Lenny, and then my three grandsons and granddaughter with the coolest t-shirts in the world. That's Lucas and Wyatt, and Olive and Arlo. Arlo's named after Ryan Sandberg, so good for him. But, Lucas is 12. Last year he said to me, Grandpa, he said, I'd like to catch a big fish. We went out in the boat on Green Lake. And about 15 minutes later, he's screaming. He's got a 4.5-pound smallmouth bass on, which he reels right up to the rod tip, right? Oh my God, he's gonna lose this fish. I'm stumbling, jumping all over the boat. I finally get a net, get it under the fish. He's already gonna tell me I'm gonna catch a bigger one. So, yeah. So cool. Some of my friends, how about guiding friends? Will you stand up? You got the Grims, come on, you got the Grims over there. Danny, Grandpathine, and Janice way back there. And the fish whisperers over here. This lady over here, out with me, she caught a 5.5-pound smallmouth. Yep, and I was on forward-facing sonar. I actually turned the sonar around. The fish was on the surface, and he started coming down towards her lure. And I said, you got a bass coming down. Here he is, he's in. And I said, he's there. And she goes, look, there he is. Sets the hook. The thing comes 12 feet, skyrockets, 5.5-pound smallmouth. Yeah. Don't ask the other guy about what he caught. So, so who am I missing here? Well, these guys here, clients of mine, the folks over here are clients of mine. Thank you for attending today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the Hall of Fame. I do have one last thing I want to mention, and that is the Hall of Fame, okay? You guys need to go to Hayward and stop at the Hall of Fame. It's a 63-acre playground and museum. Emmett talked about the 43-foot muskie, but they've got giant walleyes out on the ground, giant bluegills. They've got over 1,000 antique motors in there, outboards. You go through there, it's amazing. I found something that I have on my banner on the booth that was a device. I can't remember what it was called. What was that? That thing that you were talking about that I showed you. It's over my booth. I can't remember, but it's something like I never heard of. It's so old and so antique. But here's the deal. Any guide trips I sell in 2025, okay? Okay, when you sign up for my guide trip, I'm going to put an automatic membership into the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame for you, okay? At no extra charge. Now here's the better part. Jim Grant, who's unfortunately not with us today, He's running a contest. Jim is on the board of the Hall of Fame. The selection committee. He's running a contest, and it's called the Grand Slam contest. You stop at my booth. I'm right underneath this information sign, right down the aisle here. You enter the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame as a member. You will receive a ticket to a special drawing, which will be held in the fall of 2025. You can win one of 4 prizes: a guided fishing trip with Mark Martin. He's a noted walleye pro. Up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, great fishing up there. You can win a lure set from a famed lure artist named Al Gigliardi. That's the second choice. You can win a guided fishing trip with me for 6 hours on Big Green Lake, or a grant rod valued at $500. So you get the entry, you book a trip with me, you get an automatic entry into the Hall of Fame for 1 year. What do you get when you're in the Hall of Fame? You get the Splash magazine, you get the annual calendar, you get the records, because they do keep all the fish records, okay? You get a free pass to the Hall of Fame for you and your family, so you can go up there. You don't have to pay the admittance fee. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple of things. You get a little something. A patch, yeah. Yeah, and you get to go to this fabulous place. I've got some photos from the hall on a banner in my booth. Stop by. And sign up for a trip, become a member of the Hall of Fame. Thank you very much.
By the way, we like to call it our museum complex in Hayward. We're on 7 acres. It's over 100,000 artifacts on display. It really is. It's like a peek in the granddad's old tackle box. It's, I've been there 21 years now, and I still walk into the complex and I say, wow, who put all this stuff together? It's really quite amazing. And please, if you're up to Hayward, or make a special trip. Hayward's a great place. And I'm usually around, and stop by the office and say, hey, we saw you in Milwaukee. Thank you. And again, so to wrap things up, thank you very much for attending and giving witness to this very special occasion. And again, Daryl, welcome aboard. Mike, welcome aboard. We'll see you folks next year. Hopefully we have someone to induct from Wisconsin. We'll come up with someone. Thank you very much.